Three, two, one, and here we are, Sam. I got my hat finally fixed. It's about fucking
What's on
time.
that bad boy?
Ah, dude, it's the little X Hunter license symbol from Hunter x Hunter. You see, I
Ah,
I had an issue when I got it where the very end nub that kind of goes into the hat, because it's a snapback, and it's
uh-huh.
just like it kept popping open. All the snapping of the snapback, it was awful.
Right,
I couldn't
right.
keep this thing on my head to save my life, so I ended up 3D
You just have
printing a
a big
little
head.
thing. You know, it,
Shout out to the big head boys out there.
big head or lots of hair. Either way, it can be kind of tough.
I feel the hair, man. Hats don't work for me anymore.
It's tough. I had to 3D print a little uh, thing that goes and connects it, and then after that, that started popping. So I just grabbed some electrical tape and just wrapped that bitch.
Nice.
Yeah,
Do what you gotta do. Innovation.
yeah. Well, innovating is how I learned to stop saying every sentence. So if I can learn to innovate, maybe I too can be a good DM one day.
Growth. Character development.
I do love character development. I highly endorse any players to conspire with their DMs for character development. You don't have to do it on your own. You can get a little chat behind the scenes, behind the
Look,
DM screen.
we do that already.
I highly encourage it because I like to conspire, and then like multiple players will come up to me and they're like, "Hey, Orion, I want to do this thing." And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Meanwhile, someone else also came up to me and had their little conspiring, and now I can kind of like weave things together and cause mischief. Maybe some
Yes, sir.
backstories are counter to each other. Maybe there's
Mhm.
inter-character conflict. That could be spicy.
Always love intercharacter conflict.
I love it.
The
Like,
clashing of the morals. Hell yeah.
not enough of it. But
I
that
don't know.
being said, I think we should start the show. And welcome to Dungeons and Talkshows, the talk show that brings you monsters, news, and homebrews. I am your host, Orion.
And I am your host, Sam. Welcome back to another episode.
It's been a long week, time on the road.
Happy holidays to everyone, too.
Dude, it was a big Turkish day.
Turkish Day. Everyone
Yes.
loves the food and the family. Hope you guys had a good holiday.
Well, I survived. We need a little survival shirts for the holidays this time of year.
Yeah.
But you know what? Thankfully, it's more than just you and me in the studio today. We have a special
It is.
guest. How about you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Thomas R. Wilson. I am a professional writer, advocate, game master, storyteller, and just about everything else at this point. I want
Oh,
to say
yeah.
thank you for having me here.
Yeah, thanks for
Absolutely.
coming.
A man of many talents, many skills, many
Yeah.
hats.
Jack of all trades, right?
Pretty
Master of
much, yeah.
some, I would hope.
Yeah.
I always hated that master of none shit. It's like, oh, come on. You can't master at least one thing.
They always say that, but like, if you're really good, you really got that bounce, then aren't you also a master of all? Mhm.
That reminds me of this dude I used to know in high school, where he would outwardly just declare himself. Now he's one of the theater kids, so
Mm.
he just would come right out and he'd be like, "My name is Dick Crotchney, Lord of the Penises, the phallic master of all, and God of conquest." like
God
a
damn.
like a preacher. It was
That's
hilarious.
the guy who've seen those videos where it's like, oh man, he's like it's the dude with like the black hat. He's in like the gothic outfit. He's in like the manga store. He's like,
I
this
don't
one
know.
is about a brother and a sister, and they fuck.
You have no
It's
idea how
so
little that
good.
narrows it down.
Oh my god. Somebody out there will know what I'm talking about.
I'm sure.
There are several videos. There was the one where he was like in front of the Satanic Temple. He was like standing in line.
Uh,
It was so good.
that, that's crazy. But that guy I mentioned, we played a lot of D&D back in the day. But I have to wonder, like, how did you get your start with D&D, Thomas?
So I will be honest. I spent a good chunk of my life hearing about D&D. Um, my first real introduction was, as a high school kid, being told that I looked like the kind of person who would play D&D. Um, and that was like long before like nerddom became like so mainstream. It like everybody considers them a nerd. But
Right.
I actually started playing. After I met my best friend and my big sister. She was playing with a group with her boyfriend, now husband, and they just asked me to play. And within like one game, I loved it. It was great. I actually started DMing like 6 months after I started playing because there were so many ideas I had in my head.
Oh yeah.
Um, the conversation you were having about character players developing their own backstory, I have to comment that as well. I
Oh yeah.
absolutely love when my players come up with like little path and arcs they want in their stories. It's fantastic. It makes the story so much better.
It really
Yeah.
does. I love it, especially because the last campaign that I ran, I had players that would come up to me and they'd be like, "Hey, I kind of want to do this," and have a big reveal to the other players later on. And I'm like, "I got you." And by the time that big reveal comes around, I had at least two players at the table crying. So,
Yeah.
earn that little DM achievement right there.
It also like, players love to see their ideas in the game as well. They love to see what you can do with it. Then it takes off the pressure from you from having to write everything. I think it all works out.
For sure, for sure. So you said you do things like community stuff, like kind of networking with people. Like, could you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so specifically within the D&D community, I help people within the neurodiverse community or even organizations that want to connect with the neurodiverse community learn how to access them
Mhm.
through active D&D play. I'm a big believer that there's thousands of games out there, so give those a try. So I've ran many different systems, but really it's breaking down for a lot of businesses, a lot of people, how to connect to a community that I think a lot of people are scared to work with, not because they're scared of the people, but they want to honor and reflect like an appropriate level of care. But one of the
Mhm.
things I love about D&D, I actually just did a talk on Friday about the power of sensory friendly events, was I find that like so many people in the neurodiverse community are already playing the game or want to play the game. So a lot of my work involves just creating spaces at businesses or at locations or even online and helping foster that community connection from people with neurodiversity or sensory needs or vision impairment or a variety of things to those community resources.
Mhm.
It's a very complex thing that I'm breaking down like super quickly, but I hope that kind of helps to elaborate in a quick manner.
That's pretty awesome.
Absolutely. Uh,
I love that.
yeah, that's perfect because like my wife used to work with a lot of people that had special needs, primarily children for a time. And she ended up asking me to help her out with kind of designing some D&D type stuff that could kind of give them a tool of expression, a way to be able to experiment with social interactions and be more playful, yet being able to
Mhm.
have none of the real world repercussions that come from learning such social interactions. Because some people, when you have like a neurodivergent things going on, like there is a broad spectrum of those things, and for some people it can be more difficult to kind of pick up on certain cues. So you can
Mhm.
kind of like train those things through D&D. Like we've had guests on the show in the past that
Yeah.
use D&D as a way to help people cope with trauma.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're huge advocates for the mental health side of D&D. What it can do for you. So I can only imagine, for someone who is struggling with that social aspect, and the neurodiversity of it, I could see the you know opportunity for growth and for learning through those experiences for sure.
Yeah, and I think another aspect of that, just to add what you're saying, is a lot of people forget with neurodiversity, with mental health needs, with any kind of diagnosis, there can be a disconnect in the processing of information. I'm actually a massive
Yeah.
believer that a lot of the ways we educate people in the United States in particular, and I've heard from a lot of people as I've done talks that it's the same way in a lot of other countries, we teach people how we want them to learn,
Hmm.
not how they actually learn. And I've seen this in schools from my own personal history. I've seen it in business. I've seen it in a lot of other things, and a lot of people don't realize if you're working with someone with any level of extra need, sometimes people just need an extra 20 seconds. They need things to
Hmm.
be slowed down. They need things to be taught in a different manner. And for some reason, a lot of people just jump to the mindset that people are going to learn the way I want them to, no
Hmm.
matter if it's effective or not, because they believe it should be. And I think that's actually one of the great powers of having a game master or a storyteller, whatever you want to call it, at the table who understands that. Because when I give people the time to process, even if I have to repeat, the level of growth just in that is massive because people
Hmm.
are being respected and taught and emphasized in the way that they process information. And that's actually something I try to tell a lot of people is just give people more time, slow
Hmm.
down, and really think about what you're saying from an empathic mindset.
Yeah. You
Absolutely.
know, a lot of people are often like, "How come D&D takes so long?" Or like, "I don't know how you guys can play for 6, 7 hours or whatever." And like, usually that's what it is. It's just you guys are just talking. You guys are feeling through the moments. Like, you guys are taking the time to think about your actions.
And
I think that adds a lot of emotional intelligence. That adds a lot of like social intelligence. And it's great community overall.
Absolutely. I'm actually a massive believer that our society as a whole, even across countries, is making a massive change to the concept of wanting emotional intelligence,
Mm,
sometimes even more than regular intelligence.
yeah,
Even
true.
just at the game table, people who, a lot of people grasp the rules, but I think one of the things that runs into D&D and other games is there's pages and pages and pages of rules for things that could be a lot more simplified. But when
Hmm.
we practice emotional intelligence and communicate in a healthy way, those rules can be broken down in ways that are actually very easy to be
Yeah.
digested. I'm a huge believer that that the rules and systems are created by people from this community, but they're
Hmm.
not made for this community. They're kind of generalized and overcomplicated. And I don't think that's necessarily the creator's fault. I think it's, the complications of trying to reach people. And
Hmm.
sadly, I think the community gets left out of that consideration.
I think you're
I could,
absolutely right in that regard, where we've far too often, like if you've spent any amount of time on YouTube, you've probably come across the RPG horror stories, which if you've like I have gone through many and many a video in that subject, and it seems to me that oftentimes you find like this one person in a group that first off, they don't mesh whatsoever. And oftentimes it might be someone that has maybe some kind of neurodivergent, maybe some kind of autistic qualities that is just like they are thinking in a way that isn't how the other players are thinking. They aren't on the same wavelength. And because of that, that creates a misunderstanding of expectations or what they
hmm.
want. For example, sometimes people are very stuck on the rules. Like we're so rigid that even though this is a game predicated on uh, rules, who needs rules will make shit up. but some people are just so stuck on the rules that you cannot play any other way. So I would feel that the solution to a lot of these issues that we find in these RPG horror stories would be a matter of connecting these people to the right groups that want to play the way that they want to play because they understand
Mhm.
things in similar ways.
Yeah, definitely.
I would also add, I think something that isn't always discussed um, is the game masters themselves. I've ran across a lot of great game masters who argue that the story is theirs and the
Hmm.
players are playing in it. And I
Right.
think that that's a really dangerous mindset. In my belief, the story should be everyone's, if not
Hmm.
more so the players.
No, yeah.
And I think when game masters get into, like, the game itself enables a certain amount of control. However, when game masters start thinking of themselves too highly and start putting their player second, I think that's where a lot of those stories, like those horror stories, kick in, because I'm a
Yeah.
big believer the person running the table should be running the table. And part of that is making sure that, if you catch someone being disrespectful, you call it out and you handle it in a cohesive and constructive manner. As someone who runs a lot of games where I work with people who show up first time, have never played, and the group has never played together, I will tell you there's a huge shift in when the players respect you because they know you're going to keep that authority versus them thinking that they can do whatever they want.
Hmm.
But I think also a lot of game masters blur that line of I'm going to be the ultimate authority and
Right.
I'm going to control my players versus I'm going to work with them to cohesively make the game work.
Hmm. I think that
Absolutely.
definitely is something that people don't really talk about much is the power dynamic between like the DM and the players. There is kind of like that sense of authority,
Yeah,
of
I mean,
like,
a lot of
so,
people feel they have no control over their lives. So
yeah.
you take a introverted person with no control over many aspects of their life, and then they come into this, and all of a sudden they are told that as the DM, they are the god of the world that they have created, and they have all these people that have to do as they say. And now sometimes it's presented that way, and it doesn't
Hmm.
need to be presented in that way because that's not the case. As we've said before, it is a we are telling the story, and the DM is just like, the intermediary, not the end
Hmm.
all be all necessarily.
Right.
And I definitely agree with that. I think going back to rules, I think one of the great drawbacks of the game is that when people get too immersed in the rules, there's a fear that can happen when people, and I know I'm going like different perspectives on different things, but
Hmm.
there's a fear that can kick in. And I think sometimes when people have that lack of control, or they're not always trying to overcompensate, so they dive too heavy into the rules and the rules. But I do think that inherent fear of I'm going to be a bad DM can very quickly become I'm going to follow the rules exactly and there's no
Hmm.
deviation. And then it becomes I am the one making sure there is no deviation.
Right.
I'm a huge believer in the power of allowing your players to help make up the rules of the system. And I know like I think it's like every generation of the rules has had these are guidelines that you can and can't like you can use however you want in the
Hmm.
book, like that's printed in there. And I
Right.
think part of the downside of rules, especially in D&D, not always so much in other tabletop RPGs, but believe me, I played some that are so much worse in certain concepts like character
Hmm.
creation, that need for control ties into that need to not fail. And I think
Hmm.
as human beings, when we don't want to fail, that's where we want to control the most. And
Right.
unfortunately, I think that ties into everything we've been talking about like players and game masters. And I know that can happen with people who are scared to play with people, even if it's their friends, especially with this game having such a heavy emphasis on math and public speaking. And when
Mhm.
those two ideas clash, I think that's when a lot of those horror stories kick in.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they see D&D and they see how many rules there are. It can be a little intimidating too.
It,
And then
it
they get told,
is.
the rules are like a guideline, and they're like, oh, okay, well, I can just kind of vibe with whatever I like.
Yeah,
I kind
and
of like that freedom.
sometimes there's external pressures on these things. Like in a lot of
Yeah,
those horror
absolutely.
stories, for example, we see someone that is in the D&D in the DM seat with all this power and control, but like we said before, that there is other aspects of this control dynamic, such as the classic trope of the DM's girlfriend or the DM's wife wants to do
Hmm.
something, and now they're lording something over the DM that creates a total power imbalance in the play group itself.
Hmm.
You know, because
I think I think that's a great point. I think that's and it can definitely be harder when there's that romantic aspect, but I think it goes back into that idea of respect.
Hmm.
I'm not saying that the girlfriend or the wife didn't respect their husband, but I think there's a certain level of respect that has to be had at the table, and that
Hmm.
can definitely grow over time. But I think when you're talking about respect, people do confuse, like when you call someone out on the like, "Hey, please do not do this. I don't want this at my table." People get that personalization
Hmm.
of you're calling me out as my friend, telling me I messed up, so I'm now angry,
Right.
versus you're calling me out to keep the cohesion. I think that's one of the great drawbacks of playing with people you're really close to, because there can be such a quick um, flaw in the mindset of the players and the game masters, especially if they're at odds together.
Hmm.
I've seen players go off on a completely chaotic route, and they actually get into an argument and fight amongst each other. And I've actually seen game masters get frustrated with that and lose control of that player versus player combat,
Hmm.
and it becomes a whole mess.
Yeah.
I think especially if you're playing with like your girlfriend, your wife, or whoever that you're really close to, that really could run into that. But I still think that emphasis of like respect needs to be established so that doesn't happen.
Agreed.
absolutely. Like it's very complicated because, like you said, with the emotional intelligence of the situation, having everyone learn to understand respect. Like we got respect is a very complicated thing in modern society
Hmm.
because we have had a lack of community over as things have been breaking down. I mean, just look at COVID. People feel more alone more than ever before, and that
Yeah.
leads to the breakdown of community. And then you have these people that are getting into the hobby after having so much time self isolating. And this is a major thing, especially amongst people of our hobby. We have a lot of
Hmm.
nerds, and a lot of nerds tend to be very introverted or neurodivergent. And these are the kind of people that
Hmm.
don't necessarily have as many social interactions as they should. So these people with a lack of experience in respecting and understanding each other are thrust
Hmm.
into a situation where they are at the table with other people exactly like them,
Yeah.
and that's just a it can be something beautiful or it can be a hot mess or somewhere in between, but the
Yeah.
goal here is to try to make it as best as we can and help these people learn to do these things.
Hmm.
Like I struggle with it myself sometimes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, and I think what you said is so true that um, it could be a hot mess or a complete success. And I think one of the key things that makes one a hot mess and one the other is game masters knowing how to handle conflict at a
Hmm.
table.
Right.
Um, when you and I, this is something that's I have years and years of experience doing this now. I have a lot of training But I will tell you, it is still hard, especially depending on the frustrations and things. And I'm constantly trying to develop these skills in myself.
Mhm.
And I think one of the things that scares people off from being a game master, being a storyteller, whatever you want to do, is that idea of what do I do when there is conflict? Like, how
Right.
do I handle this?
And then it's especially interesting because, like, in a way, as a DM, you're trying to kind of, incite some emotional reaction or conflict, right? Like, for the sake of the story and people's growth as, character development and everything. So then it's like, how do I create a game conflict that's also like a personal conflict without creating like an actual conflict? You know what I mean?
And
So
that
it's
certainly is complicated to say the
yeah, yeah.
least. I've managed to do it successfully, but if I
Yeah,
was
it's
to tell you how I did it successfully, I couldn't tell you because
yeah.
some things just happen and there is a subtle finesse to things, sure,
Mhm.
but like,
It's all about the, like you said, the cohesion of a group and how well they can work and communicate together.
I do think one thing that helps a lot in my experience is the opportunity for players to both interact with each other in really positive situations in and outside the game.
Mhm.
So I've done
Yeah.
a lot of campaign sessions, and like I don't always do, I very rarely have ever done a 6 hour session, mostly because I know I'd be like dead asleep by like
Right.
hour 4 and then woke up at hour 5. Um but I found one of the great ways to make sure people get along, and this is definitely not always the case because
Mhm.
there are personalities that are going to take advantage of people for sure.
Right.
But allowing, like, one of my favorite things to do is have a break, and in that, encourage
Mhm.
and foster conversation around either what's happening in game or something that the group loves to talk about. And then
Mhm.
I try to help people, have as much fun with absurd situations because I found that that great unifier is laughter.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
I love players who are willing to let me have them become the unexpected agent of chaos to a degree.
Right,
Because
right.
when you have a player you can look to and you know they've got a good sense of humor and they roll like one of my favorite situations was I had a player group of players in a underground city, and like I had set up a scenario where they could activate portals to any world they wanted, and it
Ooh.
just so happened they activated a portal to the Fey world because one player tripped, accidentally pulled down another player's pants, and they had a solid 5 minutes of trying to scramble on the like portal staircase,
What
and it was
the
just them laughing at the two players trying to get pants up and completely failing.
That's hilarious.
And then it became this whole arc in this Fey world that's now like massively moving the story. And I
Wow.
if I didn't have those players that were like completely accidentally being just massive agents of chaos,
Mhm.
things like that wouldn't happen. But you have to know which players you can trust.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's very
And we
tricky.
also talk a lot about how, that plays into how players have a lot of agency in the story as well. Players can really, really, influence the direction of things as long as your DM is willing to cooperate or,
Mhm.
go off his plan or whatever. But there's always a lot of fun with stuff.
For sure. Like one of the things I'm hoping to achieve with the upcoming campaign I'll be running, the One Piece D&D, is
Mm-hmm.
having things be more player driven. Because I've had more story driven games in the past, but I personally really enjoy when the players are the ones that are the game shakers, pushing everything forward. Sure, like you will get like little bits here and there in games I've run in the past, but I'd like to be able to see my players have their dreams and goals and that be
Mm-hmm.
what pushes everything, not the
Right.
there's a big bad, gotta go kill the demon king, and There's children lost, and better go save them, and all that such.
I love that mentality. I love running personally sandbox style campaigns, where players can like choose wherever they want to go. I know that's not for everyone. I've talked to many GMs it's too scary for them, and I completely respect that. But as someone who does what I do, the amount of times I've like had opportunities to take little things that were complete player choices and reveal like 10 sessions later that there's like take that and mold it into this great act of corruption or great plot point, or even just like this little nod to something that was like a small trinket and is now like a massive part of the whole story of the campaign. It's one of the things I love, and I think it's a lot easier than a lot of people think it is, especially when you have the confidence in the story you're telling and you actually care about the story you're telling.
Yeah. Agreed.
So Sam, what do we got for the monster this week?
Yeah. These have been great discussions. So that means I got comfortable. So
back cracks and everything.
Today, I would like to talk about intellect devourers.
I
feel like everyone has at least vaguely heard of these boys, and
flashbacks
the chaos
to
that they can bring.
I just got flashbacks to when the intellect devourer killed Sheila, the ranger snake.
Oh yeah,
that poor snake didn't stand a chance.
Not at all. So,
damn.
Appearing in the first edition Monster Manual, intellect devourers were psionic aberrations that took the form of walking brains. They were servants of the Mind Flayers and were one of the most dreaded threats of the Underdark. With the power to consume intelligence and possessed host bodies, they were known as Brain Dog or Rocknon.
So they're like the head crabs from what was it? Half-Life. Half-Life, that's the one.
Yep, much. That's exactly what it sounds like. It's a brain with little claw arms and legs.
And jump right up in there, hollow out the skull. You got a host.
Yeah. They looked a little bit more than disembodied large humanoid brains that could walk on a set of 4 bestial double-jointed bony legs, with feet bearing 3 stubby talons. Sorry, not tubby talons.
Tubby talons.
Though their size was variable thanks to the psionic compression power, they ranged in size from 6 inches, 15 centimeters, to about as big as dogs.
That's
so
a
now
big
I'm kind of
range.
picturing, yeah, got like a Doberman fucking size. That'd be so scary, Doug.
That's terrifying. Have that show up in your house in the middle of the night.
Jesus Christ. Despite their appearance, they could move and attack with shocking speed. Their brain matter was protected under a crusty coating or a glistening clear membrane. Apparently, they were known to make like warbling noises. As the way they spoke, yeah, I guess. Something interesting I found out, though. According to one ancient rumor, which was heard by the Fae Rim, a race of magically inclined grub-like aberrations, early humans banished to the Underdark that were starving and desperate began eating anything they could find, even going as far as to consume intellect devourers. Supposedly, they were mutated, becoming the first illithids. It was further speculated that this meant an illithid could be turned back into a human, while unlikely it was enough for a Faerun to distrust their Mind Flayer allies at the time. So that's an interesting idea, too. For anyone who doesn't know, illithids are Mind Flayers. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting thought. I know that they talk about a lot about how the Mind Flayers breed the intellect devourers.
Yeah, like they're dogs, Intellect devourer is Mind Flayer's best friend.
Yeah, for real.
That's how the saying goes, right?
Something like that. Hopefully not. The intellect devourer, as the name suggested, consumed the intelligence of sentient creatures, which could be in death or by subtle harvesting. Nevertheless, they would feed until the victim was no more than a mindless husk. Intellect devourers means reproduction was understandably a mystery to most surface dwellers. In fact, illithids bred intellect devourers by subjecting the brain of one of their thralls to a ritual in which the brain sprouted legs and became an independent, intelligent predator.
Just a ritual where the
Oof.
brain gets legs. Okay.
Poop! The process involved immersing a brain in a spawning pool containing a glowing green brine that would magically transmute the brain into a devourer over a few days. The process could be unreliable. The mind flayer Nihilor saw 9 in 10 of these brains rot and die instead. Okay, so a
Yeah, it's
fairly
starting
rare
to sound
process.
like a Lazarus pit.
Yeah, kind of. The illithids created intellect devourers from the brains they elected not to eat themselves. However, it was also reported that intellect devourers arose from remaining brains of creatures slain by other intellect devourers. In this version, they seem to be psychic parasites spawned by the insanity of the far realm, and they still bore its kind of tainted energy.
Interesting.
So there was also a larval form of the intellect devourers called the Ustilgor, I believe is how you say it. Mature intellect devourers did not protect or aid them and would even eat them at times. They basically looked like brains, but instead of arms and legs, they had little tentacles.
Oh, I was hoping it would be like a tadpole thing.
Yeah, I
Be
think
like a frog.
these are more akin to like rats or vermin. They only scavenging off the mental energies of bigger creatures and were farmed as a delicacy by illithids, unless raised to maturity. An instilagore that consumed the brain of a psionic creature would become an adult. Oh, interesting.
Huh. There's a lot more to them than I thought there would be.
Yeah. A mature intellect devourer, also called intellect predator, to distinguish it from the other stages of life, operated similarly to a wolf. They hunted in packs known as pods of up to 4 specimens. They could also be found alone or in pairs. However, it was unusual for them to operate together like this. Rarely, an intellect predator that lived a long time and grown massive on consumed intelligence underwent a second metamorphosis, becoming what was known as the intellect glutton, or a brain collector.
Okay, that sounds
That's
terrifying.
scary. Too big to take a hosed body, these were powerful creatures in their own right. Yeah. So I couldn't find anything like on these. I guess that kind of gives you the freedom to just like, what does it look
Okay,
like?
homebrew some stuff. I could work with
Yeah,
that. Sprinkle a
for
couple
I
of
know.
sure.
those bad boys in a campaign. Have like a intellect, whatever the big form is that you just mentioned.
Intellect glutton or brain collector.
Have it the size of a
I
gorilla.
almost wonder. I almost wonder if the floating brains from Futurama were loosely based on that.
Oh.
That's very possible because like Futurama started in the late '90s, moving into the 2000s. So that
They
that would
Oh
be
yeah.
had Gary Gygax on there,
Oh.
so
yeah. I remember that. It was hilarious. So I would say that if they're putting Gary Gygax on there, there's a strong chance that that there's some D&D influence.
So, getting into the capabilities of these fuckboys, they were capable of magically consuming a humanoid creature's mind and memory from a distance of up to 10 feet, 3 meters, provided that creature had a brain and succumbed to a psychic assault. If so, the victim's mentality was deteriorated. In the worst case, the victim's intellectual capacity was completely erased, leaving them dazed or stunned, and ultimately, like brain dead.
Yeah, that shit
Psionic
was
intellect devours.
that shit was terrifying in 3.5 because
Oh,
back then you could have your stats consumed by various creatures.
yeah. Oh man, that's
Bring
the
that
worst.
back.
Having your intelligence slowly sucked away. Oh my god.
Literally my greatest fear.
Yeah. Psionic intellect devourers instead absorbed mental energy, as with psychic drain, or consumed the victim's confidence, as with the ego whip.
Not my confidence. I need that.
Yeah, because I know there are some like variances of intellect devourers that will prefer to eat like specific emotions and stuff like that.
How about we make
Which
a homebrew variant that just devours emotional intelligence? So now all your now all the party members are just saying rude things to each other and being very like just insensitive.
Oh, why would you say that?
I've got like a Futurama like conspiracy theory video running in my head, considering the
Oh, hell
floating
yeah.
brains like literally wanted to sap all intelligence from the universe and then blow it up.
It's canon. It's a thing now. I am already gung ho. Y'all know me. I love a good conspiracy.
Oh yeah, man, me too. So if an intellect devourer approached a vulnerable victim, it would then battle the brain's remaining defenses. A protection from evil spell prevented this and repelled them. Is if successful, it magically or psionically consumed the physical brain, and then would teleport inside the empty skull to replace said brain. Whereupon it could then use the body as a host, such as being dominated. Naturally, this killed the victim, obviously. A fresh corpse could then be used as a host, but not undead and any other kinds of creatures, not especially hampered by the loss of a brain. Any difference in size was taken care of by their compression power. Not really sure what that means.
I wonder if you could trap one inside a corpse if you cast animate dead on the corpse. They teleport inside the head, so maybe not, but it's a fun thought.
It is. I would imagine something like that. You have to like battle the control of the intellect devourer.
That could be a really fun way to make your own Frankenstein monster, though.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Cut its
What
legs
if I
off
like?
and just slap it in there.
What if I had my soulbound character that I had, and I trap it into devour inside him?
It would just be bouncing around inside that. Like
There's
that
no brains for you to eat.
It'd be like Alphonse when he was hiding a puppy in there.
Oh my god, you're so right. Except this puppy eats brains.
Well, you know, puppies do bad things. They piss on the floor. They shit on your carpet. They eat brains.
Yeah, do what you gotta do.
You just whack them with a newspaper until they stop eating brains.
Yeah, pretty much.
They eat a brain, rub their nose in it.
So once in control of the host, Intellect Devourer had full control of the body, which was more or less as strong and capable as it was normally, while the Devourer retained its own mental abilities. Moreover, the Intellect Devourer possessed partial or complete knowledge of everything the victim knows, including all languages, surface knowledge of identity and personality, but no specific memories or information, even all their knowledge and even their spells. However, it would likely lose its knowledge once it vacated the host body. When controlling a body, the intellect devourer wasn't always able to perfectly mimic the movement of certain races, such as humans. Yeah, so I would make them kind of like the zombie-like jerky movements, like no real motor control. Like
that makes me think of this thing I heard years ago, where the concept is that if a demon possesses somebody, one of the key ways to know is they don't know how to use doorknobs correctly, because they're so used to being ethereal and just phasing through things that the moment they come across something that they can't phase through, like, fuck is this? And then they kind of like fumble with the doorknob.
Well, I'd imagine that they know what it's like to have a physical form.
Yeah, but they're not used to doorknobs.
I think they're smart enough. They can figure it out.
If you could
one of my all-time favorite YouTube videos is by Ryan George, and I'm pretty sure it's entitled "Ghosts Suck at Haunting People." And it's like he just breaks down each step of how like traditional hauntings of like creaky floors and stuff are the most ghosts ever do. And like it's basically from the perspective of someone who's being taught like how he can haunt someone who killed him. And he's so frustrated he just chooses to go to the afterlife because the ghost powers are you gotta watch it. He's
Why are all the
fantastic.
ghosts from like 70s? 1700s? Where's all the 1990s ghosts? Why is nobody crip walking in my attic?
Well, you see, the thing is, the '90s ghost was attached to the Rubik's cube that you tossed out.
Oh god, you're so right.
I just thought of the Rubik's Cube episode where they parodied Hellraiser on Grim Adventures of Billy and
Oh my
Mandy.
god, I remember
Yes!
that. Yes. Oh,
I
yeah.
love that show so much.
I have got to do
That show was
a
so
DM's Guide to Netflix episode about Billy and Mandy.
good.
I can't wait to get that series fully up and on the ground because I love the idea of deep diving into shows that are perfect inspiration material for DMing. Billy and Mandy, top tier for sure.
Oh, the Cthulhu episode, where it's just Cthulhu prank calling people across the multiverse. That's like peak television of
That
any
was
era.
so good, man.
It was, and it really flips the script. I mean, think about it. Everyone talks about, oh, we're gonna prank call the big bad with sending. Okay, but what about when the big bad is prank calling you with sending? Like, he knows you're out there. He knows
He's
you're doing
sending you
shit.
nightmares. Like,
No, he just send and be like, hey, I'm just here to let you know that you're not good enough. I mean, your friends probably told you already, but I thought you should hear it from me. Just on a regular basis, just constantly heckling and hazing them a couple times a day.
what if you had like
I've
the big
now got to
bad impersonate like a cleric's deity?
I've got to see Haas Delgado fight an army of these elective hours now. That would be
Oh
the
my
best thing
god.
ever.
He has no brain for them to take. It's fine. Oh my god.
I'm
I
writing
should
down
have
that
pushed
sending
Hospital
harassment thing.
God. So before I get into their abilities and stuff here, finish this up. Safely ensconced inside the host's body, it cannot be easily attacked or targeted. It can only be removed by protection from evil and good. However, this process killed the host body unless the original brain was somehow restored within a few seconds. Alternatively, a wish spell could restore the host's brain, forcing the devourer out. If the host body was killed or the devourer was forced to leave by some means, it then teleported to a place 5 feet, 1.5 meters away. An intellect devourer could also leave willingly by exploding out of the skull.
That's terrifying.
Otherwise, if not exposed, it could apparently control the body indefinitely, though some accounts suggested 7 days before needing to refresh.
I just imagine some intellect devourer just taking the body of just some average dude like a baker or like
Oh my
just an accountant, and he just going into work every day. They're going home to the wife and kids, living the life.
It's just, I do not vibe with this reality.
The horrified expressions at the dinner table.
Oh my god. So, getting into their stats here. Only being a CR2, these things got some merit. These are, if anyone is familiar with like SCP, these aren't XK class like breach scenario. The world could end if these get out of control, okay?
Well, you have a whole bunch of them. Just
A hive of intellect devourers? Oh,
Ooh, that's good. A
could have
hive mind?
dude,
That's
you could
it.
have like the what is it called, the brain collector or whatever be like the town chief or whatever, and everybody is like infected with intellect devourers. That's horrifying.
Maybe they just make everyone feel really insecure. Eat their confidence.
Your party walks in, everybody's fucking weird.
Yeah, they just go from
love
town to town, just consuming everybody's confidence until you have just a bunch of really anxious, high-strung, insecure people.
and they
I
come in
think we
and
have to have like a supplement of like Hostile Gato
please.
and Billy and Mandy D&D game where you're just playing as those characters walking
I
into
need,
that exact setting.
I need
I
Tulok
love
the
it.
Barbarian. If anyone can get in touch with him, get him to make Hostile Gato in D&D, please.
Assuming he hasn't already. He's got
Has he?
I don't know.
Oh
He's
my
got
God. Hold on, I'm
hundreds
gonna
of
check.
these things, and it's December, so he's gonna, well, almost December. So in every December, Tulok goes through the process of every day is a build. So he's gonna have like, and if he doesn't have Haas Delgado
It has not
already,
been done.
there's a very good likelihood that we're gonna see Haas Delgado in the next month.
It has not been done. The opportunity.
Arguably better, Billy. Playing as Billy in that setting is like the immortal child
You
who'd
could make
never
like
think.
a one shot with just like Billy, Mandy, Grimm, Haas Delgado. It could be done. It could be done.
Not everybody's born cool, except Haas Delgado.
Oh my god, he's an artificer because he has. All right. So they have a strength of 6, weak boys, dexterity of 14, constitution of 13, intelligence of 12, wisdom of 11, and a charisma of 10.
Okay, so I have to know, Sam. Middle of the night, you hear a bump. You go upstairs, and you see an intellect devourer in your home. On a scale of 1 to 10, can you beat it?
All right, hold on. So I'm gonna go over the stats real quick. See what we're working with here, or not stats, the abilities. We got the tech sentience. Intellect Devourer can sense the presence and location of any creature within 300 feet that has an intelligence of 3 or higher. All right, so it knows everybody in your house, assuming you got like at least a baby above like 3. Or like a dog or something, it knows everybody that's in.
Not the dog.
Dogs are smart enough. The Intellect Devourer has can target one creature, can see within 10 feet. So once you go upstairs, right, you walk up there, as soon as you see it, it's already trying to suck you, you know what I mean? So you got to make that save, the DC 12 intelligence save, or take some psychic damage.
Yep. I just looked it up. Dogs are indeed smart enough.
Yeah. It kind of depends, because then, this is when you start taking damage, and when you go down is when it's going to, you know what I mean? So how long, or can you resist the mental combat? You know what I mean? Me personally, I got some mental fortitude. I'm at least taking 2 saves. You know what I mean?
Well,
and then
that depends.
Its health is pretty low.
I think so. I guess in the sense of mental fortitude, are you like putting up a mental barrier? Like, what is your mental barrier to repel psychic attacks?
Well, there's like the natural. You feel it. Maybe like a headache would start setting in. Whatever, I brushed that off. You know what I mean? As soon as I see it, I'm like, oh hell, this thing gotta go. So like, I'm close the distance. It doesn't seem that fast. I mean, that's speed of 40 feet, dexterity of 14. It's probably about.
It's like catching a cat.
Yeah.
Or a dog.
Yeah. It'd be like catching probably a dog. I think it could be done. If I catch it, I kind of keep this as the same rules as like animals, right? If I can pick you up and catch you, you're done.
There's no neck to snap. How are you killing this thing? You're just gonna bash it in.
I'm gonna grab it by the leg. I'm gonna slam it, and I'm stomping that bad boy out.
Okay. How about you, Thomas? Intellect Devourer breaks into your apartment in the middle of the night. What do you do?
That's the thing. Like, it's not gonna let you find it. It needs like line of sight.
I'd like to say I'd pull Billy, but I think I'm hopefully smarter than that. I don't know. I think honestly, I would probably just run
He's either
like
thinking really
as
hard or
fast
has
as I could.
disconnected.
I don't want to deal with it. I
Oh,
don't
he
like
has
rats,
disconnected. Oh no.
anyways.
No, he's there. He's there.
I don't think that
Why is
I
this
could
disconnected?
stick around in that.
At least in the lips.
No, Sam, the Libsyn's fine.
I will take a screenshot for you right now.
Everything's good on my side, bud.
You hear it?
Yeah.
I don't hear anything. What the hell?
It did sound
It's
like
only disconnected for
I
me?
couldn't hear for a bit.
Yeah, it might have been just a brief thing.
Okay.
No, maybe you have to reconnect. 1 second.
Okay.
Show you
so-
the screenshot.
I don't need. I believe you, Sam. It's just
Nah. Need to show you proof.
Yeah, I still can't hear Sam.
Okay, so you two can't hear each other. So Sam's gonna rejoin here.
Okay.
I get. Okay, there we go. There.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Awesome.
That was strange.
It was very strange.
But yeah, like you were saying.
sorry. No, I'm good. What was his answer? Can you take one?
Oh,
He would run.
Book it. I wouldn't even risk it.
Because this is my problem. I feel like if you run from it, you got as soon as you see it, you gotta like.
Like it's a moral responsibility.
Yeah, because like, what's the alternative? Like, you run away and it sucks you from a distance. Like,
Like a long distance girlfriend.
if only.
Well, this is an emotional sucking.
Yeah. This takes your confidence. Well, what about you, Orion? You think you could take it?
Hell yeah, I could take it. I'm gonna give this thing a 2 out of 10 on the IRL fight score. 2 because it has the chance to get the jump on me. But here's the thing, Sam. I'm a light sleeper. So if something starts rustling around the house, I'm up like that because, I got those daddy parental reflexes. And if we got something like this hiding around, I'm going to probably hear it, maybe just kind of walk around. And then once I get that thing in my sight, bam, maybe I throw something at it because I like to throw things. And, got all this pent up aggression where I gotta throw shit. And then if I actually catch it, that's the big thing. Because how dare something try to take my intelligence? I like my thinking. I like to think that I can do a thought or two.
Yeah, I only got.
You okay, Sam? It looks like he's fixing his audio there.
I'm sneezing.
Ah!
Sorry.
Yeah, I definitely think I could take one of these. Body slam it, just stomp on it, just smack it with a fire extinguisher.
That's the thing. They would try to get you while you're sleeping, right? They would be like up in your rafters or whatever.
Oh shit! It could try to corrupt my dreams. I don't care. You see, like, if I have bad dreams, I have this thing I do where I wake up and try again. So
you wake up and you fight the dream.
So let's say it's like kind of do that mind suck while I'm sleeping, and that messes with the dreams. Okay, I wake myself up. Something's not right here, and then I'm like,
well, I mean, because also you'd be taking damage, right, while you're asleep. So ideally, that would wake you up.
Yeah. I would hope so, but I like to think that I would wake up.
Yeah, I wonder, like, oh, sorry, you were gonna say something?
Oh, I was gonna say, like, I'm not someone who likes rodents, and I feel like this would be like 10,000 times worse than waking up to a rat in my bed.
Oh my god! Yeah,
you just wake up with it onto your chest.
If I saw that, I might as well jump out the window and risk that instead of dealing with something that can do that. Especially if like it's a good sized one, like that's
Oh my god.
Plus, it'd be like the worst Christmas present ever for it to burst out of my head, like
Oh
in
my
front of
god.
people.
You
That's
would
a
just
very
like be
different
sitting there
Christmas.
and like that's the thing because like you would see it. There'd be that initial like check, right? It tries to take some intelligence from you. Assuming it succeeds, you get a little bit dumber. Maybe you're like, what do I do? Like what am I doing? Or,
Well, the smarter
something.
you are, the more
Yeah.
intelligence it has to take first. So that's
Yeah.
already like, you're already off
maybe
to a
like
good start.
yeah, maybe you're like, oh, can't remember what I was, doing before this. And you see it again, and you're like, what the hell is that?
I would just be the concept that this thing is trying to take my intelligence would send me into an absolute rage.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, the first time I feel it try to do anything, I'm like, oh, you motherfucker. Oh, you little piece of shit.
Yeah, I almost feel like the loss of confidence would be worse because
Oh
I feel
god,
like the
yeah.
logic of scary thing, hit it with rock until it doesn't move is probably
Yeah.
like does not take a lot of intelligence.
That's more of like an
absolutely.
instinctual reaction, right? But if you don't have that confidence to where like you don't think you can take it, then instinct is gonna run. It's gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna chase this boy and get him from a distance, and I'm getting it anyway.
If I'm not
See,
confident, I'm gonna throw shit, and that's possibly worse.
For me, worst case scenario is it saps my confidence until I can't leave the room.
Yeah.
And then I'm just stuck with it without
Makes
the
you so
intelligence to know what to do.
oh god. Makes you so stupid you like forget how to walk. You're just,
Yes.
At that point, your options are return to monkey or die.
Let the monkey lizard brain take over. That's another
I'm
thing. 'Cause I feel
angry.
like no matter how how much intelligence it takes from you until you're dead, your instinctual reaction is like this thing is hurting me, like, or something is hurting me, like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Monkey brain, get rid of whatever hurt. See
No
weird
hurt.
creature, kill, get rid of. I don't like that. That'd be my reaction. I would see it and be like, "Is that a brain with legs? Oh nah, you gotta go." Like,
Yeah, like,
you
I've
were
seen the Ninja
wrong.
Turtles. I'm not fucking with this one. Not about to
This
find
thing is
out.
an abomination. You deserve to be killed. I'm sorry. But yeah.
All
I don't know
right.
what number I would give it. Maybe like a 4.
Yeah, it would have to get the jump on you, and it'd
Yeah.
have to be a very good jumping.
Yeah, I'd have to succeed on the first save, I think.
Yeah, you get one shot.
Yeah.
I think it would be really interesting to talk to the D&D player who would want this thing as a pet.
Oh, God.
The terrifying implications of a party utilizing one of these as a pet.
Oh God, that's even. You like capture an enemy, you like let this thing take its brain. Now you got this thing as a companion. That's horrifying.
You gotta feed your pet. You find an enemy
my God.
spellcaster, you pop that
I
bad
mean-
boy in there.
Look, we've talked about having like mimic as companions. This is essentially that, right? Like,
Yeah, it's worse actually.
these are smart enough to where you could probably reason with it and convince it to not consume you and just let it like work with you. Maybe
We'll give you
I
an
don't know.
endless supply of bodies.
Yeah. Don't kill us, but we'll help you feed and grow.
You know, a part of me almost wants to see like someone do fan art of just like a D&D party with a pack of these things and like a Christmas card, which is like those weird antlers and stuff.
It just gave me the ick.
I'm just picturing like a montage where with a party and the little intellect devourer, and it's all like, "Let me tell you about my best friend."
Oh my God. You have a ranger and this is their like bonded companions.
Always bonded, 6 by me to the end. Let me
Jesus
tell
Christ.
you about my best friend.
But
Oh,
yeah,
that'd be
that's
crazy.
my monster for today. that I talk about, world-ending scenario. Let's talk about like the worst case, right? Like the brain collector thing happens. There's like a hive mind. They start taking over cities.
Holy shit. That would
That's awesome.
escalate so quickly. That'd work in
You know,
Call of Cthulhu too.
I watched the Suicide Squad movie recently, and they had those like starfish head crab things.
Ah, yes.
Essentially the same thing, right? Like,
Basically.
yeah.
That
What was
that
that
is
thing
an
called?
existential threat to humanity at that point.
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised they went with Starro just because
Yeah,
depending on
Starro,
the
there you go.
comic you read, like he's like either world ending to galaxy like ending threat
Yeah.
versus I I haven't seen the whole movie, but I've been filled on a ton of
The
it, and the
movie was
fact that like
something.
it's so bizarre, kind of the concept of these galaxy ending threats being stopped by
Yeah.
a bunch of people with rats to me.
I mean, Squirrel Girl stopped Thanos, I guess. So,
I mean, I feel like that comic though that makes so much more sense. I mean, I have heard like apparently they think like the Sentry is gonna be in
oh yeah, I
the
just heard.
like the Marvel movie version of the Suicide Squad, and that
Yeah,
guy is basically Superman for Marvel. So I don't know how that's gonna
yeah.
go.
It's the same with like Adam Warlock, or whatever. He's supposedly like really strong. Like
Yeah,
Miss
Adam
Marvel.
Warlock is stupid strong, and then he got so downplayed in that Galaxy Guardians of the Galaxy movie. I was upset with how much he was downplayed.
Marvel has really lost their touch.
They just downplay the stuff. That's why if you want to see Adam Warlock in any kind of film-esque situation, just check out the Guardians of the Galaxy animated TV show.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
I really enjoyed it thoroughly.
So Ryan, I'm wondering, do we have any news for this week?
Oh, yes, we do. This is TNF, bringing you Nerd News. Yes,
Nice.
we got
Oh,
some news this week, Sam. So
awesome.
I'm going to start things off with, least interesting, but, it mildly interesting. Chris
Mm.
Pine, the guy that played in the D&D movie, he says he's pretty confident in a sequel film. Now, I would like to see a sequel film. I personally liked the movie. I thought it was fun. It was a good little romp of a movie.
Who
You
is
don't get
Chris
enough of
Pine?
those
Oh,
nowadays.
Chris Pine. Yeah, this is that guy, James T. Kirk for Star Trek.
Yeah,
Stuff.
yeah.
Right?
He
He was
played
the
the
guy in
yeah
Wonder Woman.
yeah
Okay,
he
yeah.
played the bard in this one, and I'm just like, okay, cool.
Gotcha.
I'm personally down for such a thing because the movie was fun to me,
I thought
but
the movie was okay. I vaguely remember.
there
I
is
thought it was
I have one major concern with that. I think Wizards is probably going to run out of money before they can even produce a second film.
Yeah, I don't think it did well enough to like be like, yeah, it's a definite sequel. But I mean, it could happen. I think.
Well, let's see. It grossed 208.2 million against its 150 million budget.
So
So
not too bad, I guess.
it's not the
What were the
worst.
ratings like? Were the ratings good?
Mixed ratings. The thing is, it was rolled out during the height of the OGL, and that kind
True.
of that kneecapped it hard.
Yeah, they tried to like coordinate that. Like, hey guys, OGL, and then this movie, but then they bombed the OGL.
Speaking of Wizards bombing, I'll move into the next thing that Wizards has
Mm.
fucked up on, because WotC has a long history of doing that spans this year.
We've talked about it many times.
Yeah, many times, like the deck of many things, which they have delayed, that won't be home for the holidays. So anyone that was planning on using the new deck of many things thing they were putting out, well, don't expect that this Christmas season, because
What
that's
were they
going to be
putting up?
pushed back to January.
What were they doing?
They
For
had
those who don't know.
Well, the deck of many things was supposed to be this big, like they were really revamping it and having it all based around the item in game, the deck of many
Hmm.
things.
Right.
So like
Oh, they were gonna make a physical deck.
and then some, because it
Oh,
looks
nice.
like many. So it says here that many of the fans who paid the $99 price tag on the supplement hoped it would arrive before the holiday season, given the initial
Um,
launch around October 31st, and with a fairly quick response from Wizards of the Coast. A statement on November 20th by the publisher dashed those hopes. Okay, so it's more of a supplement that
mhm.
goes beyond the simple deck of many things. But
$99.
yeah, what the fuck? Y'all are losing the plot if you're pricing things at that. But actually, I don't know if I can necessarily say that. I go to the store nowadays, and when I buy stuff like basic things like food or toilet paper, the prices are all over the place. I don't know what a good deal looks like, Sam.
Yeah, I have no idea anymore. Everything is so high, and like they've really like I don't even know, man. You're like,
I
I think that sounds good.
I look at things. I'm like, it's is that a good deal?
Like, did
Question.
anyone even do like Black Friday this year? Like, did that
Uh,
happen?
we kind of did in the sense that we got a discount when we were springing for the Foundry VTT that we'll be using in the upcoming campaign. So
Oh,
yeah,
I
ten
didn't
dollars
know.
off.
We got a discount. Nice.
Oh yeah, I thought I mentioned that.
We did not. Oh, that explains how we got it though.
Yeah.
Nice,
Eh,
nice.
Then moving on to the next little tidbit of news we got here. Adventure Time the Adventure Time RPG punts its new yes and system in favor of D&D 5e rules, which a
Interesting.
lot of people are disappointed by this because the concept of Adventure Time is it's whimsical, kind of free form, not as number crunchy as your typical RPG should be. You know what I mean?
Mm, yeah, but I don't see how this could like hurt it. You know.
I think it's just weird because like
Mm,
they were so when they were launching this Kickstarter, they were really gung ho
right.
to have their hey yes and system, like
Mhm.
being able to have people come up with ideas on the spot and just roll with it.
Right. Right.
Like that's a very specific start to how they wanted to pitch their rules. But now they've just kind of re they're rebranding, they're kind of changing things up so it's more akin to 5th edition and diving
Mhm.
more and more into those kind of rules. And I'm not necessarily opposed because I am a big Adventure
Yeah.
Time fan. If I could have things more within the lines of a system that I'm familiar with, cool.
Yeah.
But it's
That's probably what it is. I think.
yeah, I just think it's a shame that they weren't being their own thing, you know?
Mhm. I mean, yeah, maybe it just got too difficult to kind of come up with as a new concept.
Well,
Especially for I could see some of the things in Adventure Time being very tricky to handle without using like the D&D 5e system.
but
I
they
would
can
also think that with the people who have worked on Adventure Time, they're probably going to have a lot of really unique ideas that they may not have
Yeah.
even discussed yet, especially just like based on the wild success and popularity of the Fiona and Cake TV show
Oh
and
yeah.
how good that was. I feel like they're not the kind of people to go cash grabby in a lot of ways.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like this is more of a after. I think this change coming after the Fiona and Cake because Adventure Time, they've been talking about this long before the Fiona and Cake launch. So maybe
Hmm.
you're right. Maybe that is what influenced this whole situation because Fiona and Cake being very narrative driven, it's also like it does seem like there would be a decent amount of mechanics watching things and seeing how they play out,
Yeah.
and they've kind of strayed away in this right here from being a narrative focused to having more of a numbers structure.
Hmm.
And I'm also wondering maybe they wanted to add in some maturity as well, like some deeper concepts that they maybe couldn't have gotten away with before Fiona and Cake as well, considering that was way more adult oriented in its language and how it handled certain things than Adventure Time was ever blatantly about. I mean, it's a super complex show, but there were a lot of things they were not allowed to outright do and say.
Yeah. And they definitely like skirted the line. And with Fiona and Cake, they've shown a lot more, of the deeper lore stuff that they really couldn't touch on in Adventure Time.
Well, let's
Kind
see. I'm
of giving
looking a
a
little
new
bit more
understanding.
into the article here from Dicebreaker. It says when last we checked on the upcoming tabletop RPG set in the land of Ooh, players would use a newly designed Yes and rule set designed by Forever Stoked and its creative director, Matt Fantastic, cooked up specifically for this project. You can read a deep dive. Okay, yeah, so they got a link to another thing here. The gist of that is that like your dice rolls would be resolved with a pool of custom dice marked with yes, no, and but and blank die faces. So you roll the die to interpret the
Mm,
results and keep the story moving forward. So
okay.
okay, I kind of like that concept, and
Hmm.
even if they ditch that concept, I would say that in certain situations that might be fun to incorporate
Yeah.
into your home games just as is. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, that's something that could help just with like role play, you know?
I also wonder if they were scared about, like we were talking about earlier, creating more unnecessary tabletop role playing game horror stories. Maybe they thought
Yeah.
their system would do more harm than good the way it was.
I could see that.
yeah, there's a quote in here. Yes, we made the decision to make it a 5e experience based on feedback from fans. That doesn't mean the game shown at Gen Con early this year won't be released too, but the main
Mm.
offering in the upcoming Kickstarter will be the 5e RPG. Okay, so it's not gone, it's just you're getting both. That's even
Yeah. Yeah.
better. You're
Yeah. I
really
think so too.
burying the lead, Dicebreaker. Shame on you. I'm tired
And
of people
I would
burying the
love
lead like that.
I would love for us to play some of these, new things and like make them videos or streams or something.
Yeah, that's why I was talking about doing things on a bi-weekly basis for our regular uh, campaign and then fitting things in between on the off
Mm.
weeks.
Yeah, for sure. We could I don't know if we have any listeners out there who are doing their own games, want to invite us or want to join in some of ours, let us know.
That'd be awesome. And let's see. Moving on to the final bit of news here.
Mm.
Last one, I promise, guys. It just there was a lot this week. So apparently, Wizards of the Coast's core book sensitivity and inclusivity changes are being implemented into the updates for the new books.
Oh, yeah, that's fun. I did hear about this vaguely. I
Yeah.
mean, whatever makes people comfortable, I guess.
Okay,
If it
but
needs to be
you
done.
say that, but let's look at some of the passages that they're changing in the, let's say, the DMG.
All right.
Okay, right here, where they confront the original says where they confront savage giants, ferocious hydra. Okay, whatever, and they're changing savage to brutal. So any mention of the
Okay.
word savage is being removed from the game.
Why?
I don't know. And
Who are you offending by calling someone a savage? Like,
savage is
You know,
innately supposed to be an insult. Like,
I can see that one just because of the native population and like people connected to tribes from like
yeah.
eons ago. Like the surprising amount of conversations I have with people where they still hear the word savage, and like the negative connotation. And I almost wonder if that is just, it may be a bit of an overcorrection, but I wonder if they are working really hard not to
Mm.
be dated to like old school movies where Savage was
Yeah,
really poorly handled.
it is
I
probably
don't
the
know, because
case,
like
but
oh, you were going to say, Sam?
oh, oh yeah, I was just gonna say like when you talk about somebody being like a savage, right? It's a very specific idea that you're trying to put across, right? It's not like
Like
oh
beyond
these people are
brutality.
savage. Yeah, it's more it's deeper than that, right? It's like they do things that are specifically savage. You know what I mean? Like it's like a deeper
Yeah, like if you describe
descriptive
brutal,
word.
I imagine like okay, big buff dude punches someone so fucking hard they lose teeth, blood's going everywhere, and like you can hear bones and stuff crack under their fist. But if you tell me that someone was savagely attacked, I'm thinking this person wasn't. That didn't just happen. On top of that, they were taken to the ground. They were beaten savagely.
There's
You know, they're just
yeah,
like
there's also the implication of like the bestial nature of things when you use things like savage, you know, because it's kind of like you use things that are what's the word I'm looking for here? Like you know when they do talk about like barbarians and like orcs and stuff, right? They're
uh,
uncivilized, like
don't beat me to it because that's
yeah,
all those words you just said are coming up next.
yeah, yeah. It's oh man.
Well, uh, I don't know if I necessarily have any room to speak on it, being I'm only
Mhm.
30% Native American and ha- and have
But
some affiliation
I
with
feel
the
like
Micmac
even
tribe here in Maine, but like it's just
because
I
you could be like an isolated tribe or an isolated civilization, you know what I mean, without being savages. Like you don't have to, have that connection.
I always see it as savage is more like you're describing something that is just beyond primal, like it's just
Yeah,
that kind of rough and uncut.
the disregard for like people or
Yeah, like
living things or whatever. Like
yeah, like it right here. The next one it says monstrous predators and savage raiders being changed to monstrous predators and merciless raiders. Those two, like if you swap that word right there, that completely
why are they keeping
changes.
monstrous, huh? Might as well change everything.
Uh, the next one we got here that's changed from from fight you can expect to fight savage orcs to fight ruthless bandits. So why are they getting rid of orcs? Is it who am I offending by saying orc?
Are orcs not bandits sometimes? Can orcs not to
Uh,
be bandits?
Orcs can be bandits, but not all bandits are orcs.
Yeah.
I
What are
think
they trying to say?
part of I think part of the inherent issue with something like this is, I can't speak for everyone. I can't talk on every situation, but I feel like when there is an urgency to replace words without an intentionality, like a very specific intentionality with it, it's going to frustrate someone in some way. And I feel like, especially with the changing of language and a lot of things, there are a lot of people who they work too hard to change things, but they don't always put in the effort to necessarily. And I can't speak for Watsy. I don't know what their whole system is behind the thing, but I think sometimes when we go to fix something that doesn't work for some people and doesn't work for others, there's always that danger of ruining it more. And I think that's for something that's as established as D&D, especially with the wide variety of people in the fan base. I think one of the dangers is if you don't have enough people from those communities commenting, the danger is ruining it by actually sacrificing the intentionality, if that makes sense.
I
Mm,
absolutely agree because that does make a sense.
yeah.
Look at this at let's say a ship of Theseus perspective. If you keep swapping out each and every piece of this ship that is D&D, so
Mm.
we start with replacing savage with brutal. We start replacing, uh, you know,
Race with species.
race with species. Like, honestly, a lot of people accepted race with species because
I don't
that,
mind that one too much.
that one that made some sense.
Yeah,
I
there's an
could
example.
I could be okay with it. I didn't like it, but it made sense.
Yeah.
So we keep chipping away at these little things, little by little. So instead of saying the word civilized lands, we're saying settled lands. Like, what's wrong with civilization? Who is this for?
Just because a land is settled doesn't mean they're civilized. Like these don't have to be mutually exclusive. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, like here's a one from the player's handbook. Adventurers heading back to their civilization to rest. To adventurers heading back to their home base to rest. Like, what's wrong with heading back to civilization? You're out in the
home
you're out in
base.
the wild. You go back to civilized places like
Town.
towns.
Like why home base? Like,
A fierce warrior of a primitive background to just a fierce warrior who can just they took out of primitive background. Like, what's wrong with saying a barbarian? It's literally the class. Like, barbarians are meant to be brutes.
yeah, or like that'd be like saying druids like aren't primitive. They strictly are because they don't use like.
They're trying to remove other words in magic, where it's just like you can't use the word witch, or priest, or like they're going out of their way to remove these things. It's just like, I was raised by Wiccans, dude. Nobody's offended by you using the word witch.
It's like if you're gonna take out witch, you might as well take out like demon and like devils and like.
Like right here it says
like I don't
it says a barbarian horde, and then that's replaced with an invading horde. Like, I'm not afraid of an invading horde nearly as much as a barbarian horde.
Yeah, that's a different inclination, not implication too. Like you don't need to do this.
I almost wonder if it would have been better for them if they had like done a directory of words you can use and like giving variations, because I feel like choosing the like just one word for all scenarios is kind of shooting themselves in the foot a bit.
Yeah.
They should gets
create
weirder
like DM's thesaurus.
Dude, it gets even weirder the deeper down I'm going into this article, showing the comparison, because I read through some of it earlier, and it kind of seems like they're conflating madness, insanity, and stuff of that nature with mental health. And it's like, okay, well, just because something is mad or insane doesn't mean that we're being hateful towards people that have mental issues. Like, there's tons of people that seek out mental health all the time, and just because someone has a disability or a illness that's affecting them, it doesn't mean that we think less. Like, it's like, hey, come on, like, just because you have to take pills to kind of cope with maybe something like bipolar doesn't mean that you are, the kind of person that's being offended by saying mad necromancer, or pandemonium is the plane of madness.
Exactly.
I mean, I work to try to keep my phrasing wise, and I work with the mental health community, but I've used the word insanity check. I've used, realm of madness. It goes back to that. How do you use it, and how do you use it in kind communication?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing is, I don't think coddling people within the mental health community is helping them in any way.
Yeah. But like, you're basically like, what's the word? You're like baby guarding all the things people could get upset about, I guess.
Yeah, like replacing the word crazy with foolhardy. Foolhardy and crazy are very
different. Even accurate.
Those are very different things when you're describing an enemy. A crazy enemy means that this person has lost themselves. They have something went wrong. Foolhardy means, oh well, they're just a little
This is the
misguided.
difference between like
they're
the
just an idiot.
Riddler and the Joker, right? Like,
Yes, that it is that difference. Crazy and foolhardy is literally the difference between the Riddler and the Joker. Another one here is describing a wizard, an insane wizard
yeah,
or a villainous wizard. Like, those are two different connotations. An insane wizard is just like, okay, this person, something happened to them in their
almost
life
worse.
and it broke them in some way it could very well be irreparable.
Yeah, right.
And your players might approach a insane wizard with either hostility or levels of compassion. But if you're approaching a villainous wizard, they're a bad guy right off the bat.
Man, I feel like this is all unnecessary because people are gonna change these things anyway. So like, why even bother? Like,
It gets even weirder. So this one, it talks about a herald, a town crier, a mad person, or other individual. That's the old reading. The new one is herald, a town crier, a prophet, or another individual. It's like, are you conflating madness with prophecy?
this is worse.
Then under that, the change is from madwoman to soothsayer. I don't know about you, but every crazy ex I have is not a soothsayer. They are not predicting the future.
Yeah, and that's like a very specific, like, for someone to be a soothsayer is like, it's not a bad thing. They're not insane. They got their own kind of magic. Like,
Sometimes you see things that others don't, and
yeah,
that's kind of an iconic thing that you find in a lot of games, Like, just
exactly.
this person seems a little unhinged, but they can see beyond the veil, and of course that would affect your mental state, seeing things that are
Absolutely.
beyond human comprehension.
Yeah. Anyway, Wizards is doing questionable things once again.
From changing the writings of raving lunatics to the incomprehensible scrawlings of witnesses.
Damn.
I didn't realize witnesses had trouble writing. Good thing I'm not a cop.
I almost wonder if so there's some things I can understand, some things I can't. And I almost wonder if they're revealing their hand quite a bit in some of their mind of like what they're attempting to put as mindfulness, because there definitely seems to be almost a political like aspect to some of the things, like with Soothsayer. And it seems like they are getting guidance that is flawed in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it's one of those things where before you change something, you need to understand what you're changing. And it seems to me that they outsource this to one of those DEI agencies that does the book reading, and they review things in books and check to make sure that everything is, PC and friendly for all audiences. Now, if
Yeah.
you are outsourcing to a agency like that, that means you have an outsider looking in at all of these things, and they don't understand what they're looking at to begin with. For example, let me scroll down a little bit to some of the other terms that they're trying to get rid of. References to fat have been either removed when the word does not add meaning, or revised to a better way to explain the creature's size. We can't call something fat now?
I mean, if a creature's fat, I'm calling it fat, bro. Like, I'm sorry, like,
the conflation of Asian and honor. Okay, so they have seen. So for the 2024 rules, they're going to change how monks are characterized by removing mention of ki. Oh,
what?
they're removing ki? I like ki.
It's like their whole thing.
I went through a whole stint when I was in high school practicing qigong. You're like, come on.
So what are they gonna give them now? Chi? It's just...
No, they can't do that. That's the same thing.
It's like martial energy. What the hell?
Let's see. Phylactery, they're going to remove phylacteries from liches because it is
What?
of Jewish cultural origin.
What?
What?
Is
Uh,
this true? I'm not Jewish.
I don't know. I'm not Jewish either. I mean, a bar mitzvah would be fun. I mean, lift me up on a chair and dance me around. That sounds awesome.
I'm looking this up.
I'm mostly jealous because no one ever came up to me and told me, Orion, you are now a man.
Yes, vaguely. So they're called tefillin, or phylacteries are a set of small black leather boxes with leather straps containing scrolls of parchment inscribed with verses from the Torah. They're worn by adult Jews during weekday and Sunday morning prayers. That's not even the same. I mean, just because like they're called phylacteries, it's like they're not even the same thing. And phylacteries for a lich can be anything. Like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, I expected the gender stuff because that's mentioned here in the article. It's like, okay, well, that makes sense. Tons of people in the hobby are trans or non-binary or other, like there's tons of people within the hobby. So of course that's going to be something like that makes sense. I get it.
Yeah, for sure.
But other things here are just unasked for. And then at the very end of all of the as far as I got the page loaded here. Oh no, I guess it goes further. But
yeah, give us one more.
I'll leave us with one more on here because this thing just I'll probably put the link in the description afterwards if anyone wants to read it for themselves. But we'll end things off with slavery.
Oh.
Yeah, they want to get rid of slavery from
as a whole concept.
Yeah. But what if my dude, like for me, like sure, it's not a fun concept, but moving into the campaign that we're going into, one of the driving factors is that slavery is a thing in the world, and a lot of the players are not okay with that, so they want to kill slavers and free the slaves.
And I mean, what does that mean for a lot of races who have like slavery be a big part of their, race history?
Like Drow?
Like Drow, Dragonborn, you got like kobolds, goblins, all of them, really. Like,
I will say I don't agree with it totally, but one thing I could possibly reason they were trying to avoid with that is like encouraging the trope of like your player character being completely racist against another species.
Yeah, I can
and
see
like
that.
Being the slave owner. And I'll be honest, I don't allow that in my games, partly because I've seen that go really south. And
I feel like that's such a specific game by case. Like,
like if you're gonna engage in slavery in your game, like that's a very particular table that you're sitting at, because some people are cool with it and they think, hey, okay, hey, it's funny. This world has slaves, we'll make the slaves do funny things. But in most cases, throughout all of history, like if you look at real world slavery, every race on almost every continent has been enslaved in some capacity. And like in D&D, that's basically the same. Tons and tons of different races have been enslaved by one another back and forth. And I think that by removing slavery, you're removing the chance for people to fight it.
Yeah, agree. You remove you remove that like the adversity from the world. Like that'd be like removing like murder. Like
you can't kill anything. Sorry, guys.
Like where there is a power, there's going to be people who are going to oppress, right? So it's like you can't make it so that people can't enslave people now. I mean, like there's always going to be someone who wants to oppress the people below them.
Yeah. Like there are touchy topics for the game, absolutely. Like rape, for example. Like
that's between you and your DM.
Yeah, I mean, like that could happen at a table if players are okay with whatever the context is, and you're not being too graphic like an asshole. Like in my case, I think most of my players would be happy to like everyone's like, hey, I would kill a fucking rapist. in D&D, you can kill a fucking rapist. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, shit. Live your dreams. That's the point.
Yeah. You know, be the molester murderer that you always wanted to be. You know, your list is just like, okay, that's one less rapist in the world. I'm making
Like,
D&D a better place, guys.
I literally saw a video the other day where a guy was on trial and they were like, "So you admit to being guilty?" He was like, "Yep, I killed this dude." And they were like, "Why'd you kill him?" He's like, "Because he's a child molester." Told him straight up, "I'll kill him."
Yeah, you know, if you do that in the real
I'm not,
world,
I'm not
you
saying
get,
we advocate, but like,
well, you do it in
good
the real
job.
world, you get caught, and people like you still go to jail. You
Yeah.
kill a rapist in D&D, everyone thinks it's
But then,
funny.
but then
They
it's also you get to deal with like the moral implications of like, yeah, you killed someone who's bad, but it's like, does that make you a good person? You know what I mean?
mm,
And then you get to battle that like that mindset. You take that
oh,
away, then
like
it's
the
like,
classic paladin of the party being like, listen, if you kill him, you are sinking to his level. We will bring
yeah,
him to the proper authorities, and he shall be judged.
all right. You kind of deal with that whole implication of it, and take away that like that kind of annoys me because then it's like that'd be like if we're gonna remove slavery from like the history books, right? Then it's like so you're just not gonna teach about like a whole culture or an adversity of this culture. Like that's crazy to me.
I'd say so. But that covers it for news.
Yeah,
I
yeah, that's crazy.
I think that definitely, like, for everyone listening, please just you know, make sure that everything you do at your table vibes with everyone at your table.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, I know a DM that does a little census of what everybody is comfortable with having in a game before they're during session 0, and he makes each one of those players sign that paper to verify that each of them is okay with everything that they said they're okay with. So if it comes up later in the campaign and they say, "Hey, I'm not okay with this," pulls out the paper. You stated right here that you were okay with those kind of themes. Why did you lie to me? Why are you ruining my prep?
One thing I would also add to that, in kind of expanding on that idea, is anytime I feel like I have a session that is going to be intense, like I've
Mhm.
done campaign sessions where we've done like Halloween games or prison breaks or other things where I know I'm going to be touching on like horror or
Mhm.
other really intense topics, I keep that discussion open with my players and I have the discussion of what can you handle in this topic and what
Right.
can't you, and I ask them to be very honest with me, and I run the game based on what they tell me. And I think it's up to both people
Mhm.
playing and for the player to be honest about your triggers and your needs at the table. Especially as game masters, I think it's important for us to tell people what we are comfortable with in
Mhm.
our boundaries so
Yeah.
that we can respect ourselves as well.
Absolutely, because we're all trying to have a fun time together, and by not communicating these things, we end up like back at the start of the episode when we were talking about the RPG horror stories. Those things were never communicated. Like this
Mhm.
person has trauma from maybe rape, or maybe they were abused, and maybe something happened X, Y, and Z. Those things should have been stated at the very start with the DM, maybe in private, just be like, hey, keep these things out of the game if you would.
Mhm.
I just want to have fun and I don't want to feel uncomfortable.
Right. And that's all perfectly okay.
You know, everyone's got their
Everyone wants
limits.
to be comfortable. Everyone wants to have a good time.
Yeah, and
We're
like,
all just making a story together.
yeah, every table's different. Some
Yeah.
tables have no limits, others have very well defined limits.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we are coming to the end of the episode here, right?
Not just about. And we can move right into wrapping up with our good old homebrews.
Generic realm! Generic realm! Lots of fun! Excellent!
Welcome to the generic realm. Now,
Welcome,
Sam,
welcome.
I know you have a whole big thing that you wanted to
No,
go
it's
over.
quite long. I may have to, why don't you go ahead and do yours, and I'll pick something a little bit shorter.
Okay, that sounds fair. I'll have
Yeah.
to edit this stuff later. But let's see what we got here. We got the Wild Moon armor from
Ooh.
Dragons and Stories. You can check out their Patreon. Pretty awesome. I'm looking at the art here in the stream, and they are very open about it. This is AI art. Now, that might trigger some people. A lot of people have their own grievances with AI art. But I think this looks really good. Sam, are you seeing this?
Oh, sorry, 1 second. Go
Yeah.
to stream.
Just want to get your opinion on this very barkish armor. Like it's got
See here. Ooh.
the pauldrons flare out in a rooty mass. You got
Yeah, I
some
like
little
that.
root flares coming off the gauntlets. A little bit of claw going on the hands. It
That's
just
very cool.
it's very wood and natural looking with little swirls and runes and kind of a tree glowy crest on the chest. A little belt sigil. It looks amazing. I love it.
Yeah. I like that a lot.
I'll give them credit for good prompting. You know what I mean? It looks nice. But getting into what it does. Now, this armor does come with a curse. So this can be any medium armor. It's very rare and requires attunement. This imposing armor is crafted from the enchanted wood of an ancient forest, with sigils of ancient cursed yeah. Let's try that again. With sigils of the ancient curse etched into its grain, the armor pulses with a feral essence, and the eyes of the carved beasts glow in an otherworldly light under the moon. While wearing and attuned to the armor, you gain a +2 to your AC. In addition, this bonus applies to your natural armor when you are shapeshifted into any form that grants natural armor. So,
Okay.
yeah, this is specifically engineered for druids because druids don't get enough good armor. We all know this.
Agreed.
So, the main thing that this has going for it, besides being good for druids, is Curse of the Wild Moon. When you are attuned to wearing this armor, you bear the curse of lycanthropy. In the presence of the moon, you can use your action to undergo a transformation into a lycanthrope. The specific form of lycanthropy you assume is selected when you first don the armor and can be altered only during a full moon. This transformation lasts until dawn or until you are reduced to 0 hit points, at which point you revert to your original form. If you choose to revert back to your original form before dawn using an action, you suffer 1 level of exhaustion due to the strain on your body.
Okay.
I think it sounds pretty fun.
Yeah, for sure.
And what do you think, Thomas?
I love it. I'm actually I'm a big fan of druids. I personally I ran a campaign once where one of the big bads was a tiefling druid combo, and their whole thing was they were trying to terraform the earth to a hellscape.
Oof.
And it was really fun because we had a whole situation where we had a couple druids in the party, and they had a strong moral contrast, and I would be really interested to see how that would play out in that campaign with that armor.
Yeah. Definitely.
Absolutely. Switch that.
All right. I like that a lot.
Okay, Sam. So You got
Yes.
your homebrew here. Let me pull that up.
I do. I was able to find something really cool. Kind of caught my eye as soon as I saw it. Shout out to Cinderblock Sally. They have a Patreon where it looks like they make really cool D&D things as well. Shout out to them.
Oh, let's see. I guess I gotta alter that a little bit.
Yeah, wait till you get that up.
There. No, it's good. It's good.
Oh, okay.
Go for it.
So today I present the Star Sickle. This thing looks fucking sick.
Oh.
Just the art on this is really cool.
It is. It's very celestial, as the name would suggest.
Yeah. So it's a weapon sickle. Legendary requires attunement. This cosmic sickle, forged from rare astral elements by celestial smithies, is rumored to have been wielded as a sidearm by the Guardian of Elysium. The Star Scythe is an expanding item. Expanding items are magic items of immense power. When first found and attuned, they exist in their dormant state. Through time, accomplishment, and growth, the item can grow into its awakened state and then its ascended state. So, at the dormant state, you gain +1 bonus to attack and damage rolls with this magic weapon. When you hit with an attack using the sickle, you can deal an extra 2d4 radiant damage to the target. Pretty standard, pretty nice buff.
All right.
The sickle has the finesse and thrown property. Immediately after you make a ranged attack with this weapon, it dissipates into starlight and reappears in your hand.
Okay, so like a returning
That's cool.
dagger.
Yeah, nothing too crazy. And last but not least, while holding the weapon, you may cast Misty Step. This property cannot be used again until the next dawn.
Okay,
pretty good.
cool.
Nothing too crazy so far, So next up, we have the Awakened State. When you are attuned to the sickle in its awakened state, the weapon bonus and attack rolls increase to +2. When you take the attack action, you can replace one of your weapon attacks with a special reality warping ranged attack. Choose a point in which you can see within 30 feet to throw the sickle. Each creature within 5 feet must succeed on a DC 15 strength saving throw or take 3d4 force damage as it erupts in energy. That's pretty cool. While holding the weapon, you can also use an action to cast Dimension Door. The property cannot be used again until the next dawn.
All right. I like that.
And this is interesting because I like that it doesn't give you like conditions on how to awaken it, and this would kind of be completely, dependent on your DM. Maybe you gotta feed it materials or feed it magic or something.
I like the idea, especially because I've heard many DMs, many DMs make magic items that evolve with the players over time. Now, this right here is definitely one such item, but what really makes it stand out is I like that it has a formula, 3 states, dormant, awakened, ascendant, which you can easily, tons of people are going to homebrew this style of weapon anyways, but this provides a excellent format, and I love that.
Yeah. Last but not least, we have the Ascendant. Weapon bonus increases to +3. The DC of the sickle's special reality warp attack increases to 17. The damage increases to 3d6. Last but not least, you can use your action to cast Steel Wind Strike from the sickle. When you do, use your weapon attack bonus instead of your spell attack bonus. And just like the others, this property cannot be used until the next dawn.
I love Steel Wind Strike. It's so cool.
Flurry of this blade. That's so cool.
Well, as Tulok always says, it's got that nothing personal kid energy,
It does. This is a weapon that any character that I use would probably fucking love. This is just really cool.
I'm just glad it's a sickle and not a generic sword. Although you could really just flavor this to be whatever. Yeah,
it could really be anything. I could even see this being like a scythe. Yeah. Shout out to Cinderblock Sally. Love it.
Absolutely. And there. So Thomas, do you make weapons for campaigns where they kind of evolve over time? I know a lot of DMs do.
I've definitely done that. I think for me, I also agree. I love that. I love the concept of ever evolving weapons. I know you mentioned the One Piece campaign.
One Piece.
And one of my favorite things about One Piece is how devil fruits awaken. And I think for me that's one of the coolest aspects of One Piece. And in general, as someone who tries to keep weapons unique and tailored to players to kind of help players have more individuality in a world where, frankly, I believe anything can and should happen.
Yeah.
Really? I like the idea of a character having like that custom kind of walking into a battle with the badass weapon kind of thing. The other way I love to describe it is like Blade from the Blade movies. With,
I think it's really funny that you say that, because my One Piece character is a Devil Forge, and I'm kind of specifically doing like, I want to have weapons made for everybody. I want to put devil fruits in them that suit them. Like, I want to give them like abilities.
He wants to outfit the whole party.
Yeah, man. That's like a goal for my character. He wants to have people around him and like be able to outfit them the best he can.
You're also the cook, so I'm excited for that.
I know. I would love if you let me be able to kind of make these kind of weapons and have them evolve with the devil fruit abilities or whatever. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think where you already have a ton of proficiencies for making stuff already, there's so many weeks that will be spent at sea picking up a smithing skill in addition to everything else.
For sure.
Definitely doable.
Definitely.
One thing that I kind of wish, I may have totally missed it, but I don't think it's a thing. I really wish One Piece had added into its lore like the concept of like if you cook a devil fruit in a specific dish, something like truly like you have to have the right ingredients, but if you were to cook a devil fruit in a specific way in a specific dish, like you could infuse it into people in a very like unique kind of temporary focus.
That's another thing, I'm trying to explore with this character too. It's so funny that you say that, because I was told devil fruits are disgusting. You cannot make them taste good. You can't really cook with them. So I wanted to kind of give him this idea of like, I want to make something delicious with devil fruits. They get the abilities or not, it's fine, whatever. But I also want to be able to like give people the devil fruit abilities, maybe without the repercussions or whatever, or better effects or, whatever.
It's a fun thought for sure.
Yeah.
And something that we can explore over time throughout the campaign.
I can't wait. That's coming up soon. I'm excited.
Yeah, we finally got Foundry up and going for that, so I'm excited. I've hated Roll20 for a long time.
All right. I guess as we finish up here, is there anything you want to tell the listeners out there? You want to go ahead and plug yourself?
Yeah, so I am all over social media and various websites. My Instagram is RH Storytelling. I definitely, like at this point, my brain's definitely a bit foggy, but I can definitely make sure everyone gets all my links. Additionally, I do also create on Patreon, but I am probably a lot more of a novice than the people you've mentioned already. And I am always glad to have conversations with people around the idea of neurodiversity and gaming and tabletop RPGs and events even outside that. So if you ever want to email me at ndttrpg@gmail and have discussions and share ideas, please feel free to do that. But I'm a massive believer in the power of questions. So
yeah.
Questions are the answer. And with that, absolutely, everybody check him out. And, it's amazing what a little bit of homebrew can do. Like, even though you might not think of yourself as that experienced, sometimes, like, you can just make something truly amazing,
I mean, hey, like we meet so many people just from talking about the homebrews at the end of these episodes, and they sometimes hit us up and they're like, "Hey, thank you for talking about this. I was really proud of this piece," or, just thanks for giving us a little extra love. And it's always nice to hear people happy about that. Everyone deserves the recognition for their work.
It's something we strive for here.
Yeah. Sure. Well, hope you all enjoyed this episode. I believe we're about done.
Yeah.
Our Dungeons and Talk shows. We're nerds. So what do we know?
Yeah. Check us out on the socials, the podcasting places, or whatever platform you have, because
Yep.
we're casting a wide net, and we'll see y'all next week.
I'm gonna go eat Thanksgiving leftovers.
Hot damn.